blowing gigantic plastic bubbles? Bending steel without bare hands? Exhaling breath so cold it would give beast goosebumps? Superman? Not even close. It's the refrigerator. Today, we visit the Amana Company, a factory that's more than 40 acres under one roof, large enough to house more than 30 football fields. They'll show us just how refrigerators are made. Also, there ought to be a law against it. Everyone who's traveled knows what trials his bags have seen, smashed, bashed, or rerouted to Kalamazoo. Today we'll show how one luggage manufacturer builds bags strong enough to shelter your belongings from the ravages of travel. And we'll leave the whirring and grinding of the gears of modern machinery behind and venture to Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Here, the only occupational hazard is falling asleep on the job. Hammocks is what they make, the old-fashioned way, as you'll see for yourself on How's That Made?
How's that made? How's that made?
The nerve center of the household is, without a doubt, a no-brainer. The refrigerator, by a landslide. It's the family bulletin board, notes reminding Dad of tomorrow's root canal, or the kids their weekly chores. It's an art gallery showing off the portraits of your child's heroes, or more abstract forms of art. A photo album of family and friends, all held together by refrigerator magnets, which form a kooky art gallery of their own. But let's not forget the refrigerator's dark side. Just when you think you've kept your New Year's resolution, it waylays you on the way to your diet. But you can't judge a major appliance by its cover. Just what's inside a refrigerator, besides your favorite ice cream. How does it chill so effectively? We wanted to find out, so we ventured to one of the major combatants in this cold appliance war, the Amana Refrigerator Factory, located in Middle Amana, Iowa. Amana wasn't always the beacon of capitalism. Originally a German immigrant community, they were communal and self-supporting, passing old world practices down through generations. When the Great Depression hit, they were forced to abandon their traditional ways in order to survive. In 1947, Amana Refrigerators marketed the first upright freezer, one giant step on their way to becoming the home appliance behemoth we know now. Rex Sanders has been there for over 30 years.
The plant itself is 40 acres under roof, but just a hair under 2 million square feet, and we've got about 1,950 factory workers here.
The basic raw materials used in the making of refrigerators are steel and plastic. You might be surprised to know that these plastic pellets are actually manufactured in a lab from resins culled from such natural ingredients as chlorine and propane gas. Once chemically altered, they become strong and pliable, perfect material to use to create a refrigerator liner. How do they shape those plastic pellets to form the inside cabinet of the refrigerator?
We extrude that through a process called extrusion and make it into a sheet. The sheet comes out melted, really, and we cool it down into a sheet that's as thick, as wide, and as long as we want. Then we go from there to vacuum forming, where we reheat that, and through a process of vacuum, form it over a tool into either a refrigerator liner or a door panel. When you open the door, that's vacuum forming. If we didn't blow it up like that and pre-stretch it and we tried to shove that tool into it, it would just tear it. And through that blowing it up and how we heat that is how we give the thing uniform thickness all over. The operator, and he's really the key to the whole thing, he's the real magic. Through his skill and learning on the machine and how he heats that, he can make that just as thick on the back and the top and the side. And it doesn't really want to be that way. When you blow it up, it wants to be thin, you know, just like if you blow bubble gum and it wants to break. So he has to heat it in a certain way to get it a uniform thickness all over the part.
Next, they're trimmed and pierced, with the excess plastic reclaimed and ground up to be used again.
So it's a pretty efficient process with very little waste.
Meanwhile, enormous coils of steel weighing as much as 15,000 pounds are unfurled, cut to various lengths, and bent, origami Godzilla style.
We bend it into the shape of a cabinet, weld the bottom in, the feet on, weld the back into it, form that cabinet up, send that cabinet on over to paint.
Up, there's the whistle. Time to put the assembly process on ice. But when we resume, plastic and steel will form the bonds of holy matrimony, one marriage sure to last. Break's over. Time to gear back up after gearing down. Today, we're at Amana Appliances in Amana, Iowa. You may recall how plastic and metal are molded to create the vessel for your home's deep freeze. Before marrying the pieces into a functioning unit, they, like a bride, need to be transformed into a vision in white. In other words, paint before assemble.
As the parts leave the fabrication department, they are hung on my wash line. The wash line is an 8-stage washer. It's like a giant dishwasher.
The components are showered in a washing solution. The particular wash is determined by the chemical properties of the piece to be painted. The goal? To achieve the best cohesion of part and paint.
No brush. This is an electrostatic paint system. The parts come into the booth. They are grounded. The paint has a charge to it, so the paint is physically attracted to the steel itself. What this is, the operators come down here. They know what's coming into the booth. Each type of cabinet or door has its own program put into this system.
How often have you had to repaint your refrigerator? Not often, if at all. This is one paint job with stick-to-itiveness.
We're going to tell that last string doors come out.
Looked pretty good, but it was a little bit on the dry side.
Okay.
So I'm going to raise it up to 5% over here in phase 3.
Okay. All right.
The cabinet leaves the painting station and heads out in need of reinforcements.
What we have is we have the cabinets that are going to come over from the paint area on a conveyor system. They're going to come down over to this first step of assembly. And we're going to be taking some tubing that we're forming here for the sealed system. I'll cut the length. I'm just going to go over this, some fixtures that you see over in this area. We're going to actually form up some of the tubing that'll be going into the first step of the refrigerator assembly. This first tube, we actually use this. This is a nice little design feature. We're actually using this tube to heat up that first flange of the refrigerator, so that when it goes in your home, you won't have water condensing on the front at that seal surface and dripping onto your floor. So it's actually energy efficient as well, because we use some of the heat from the refrigerator to warm up that flange, and it gets rid of the heat as well.
Most people have the mistaken belief that the refrigerator, like the villain Mr. Freeze, chills your food with cold air. In fact, a refrigerator does not create cold, it removes heat. This is the job of the condenser evaporator assembly.
The refrigeration system is made up of 4 basic components. One is the compressor, one is the condenser, one is the expansion device, and the last is the evaporator. The compressor is the pump. The compressor is the heart of the refrigeration system.
The compressor takes a low-pressure gas, the refrigerant, and compresses it into a high-pressure vapor. The vapor is then expelled into a condenser, and from there to the post-condenser loop, the copper tubing.
This low-pressure refrigerant then takes heat out of the system, out of the cabinet, into the refrigerant, and then it's back to the compressor, taking heat out. That's what the refrigerant does.
Finally, it's time to wed the cabinet to the liner before either party gets cold feet. The part that makes it all tick, the condenser coil compressor assembly, is installed. What they're making now is the thinner section of the appliance, which divides the freezer from the refrigerator.
What we have here is the center section of the refrigerator for our top mount model. What this section does, this is a foam that goes into the refrigerator, insulates the freezer, which has the very cold air, from the refrigerator, which has air that's probably like around 36 degrees.
The last thing you want is your ice cream melting or your fruits and vegetables freezing. If you've ever had to move your refrigerator, you'll appreciate the importance of this feature.
This is where we put the wheels on. It's a nice soft kind of a wheel so it won't damage your tile floor or the wooden floor, as you're seeing a lot of today's homes.
Next comes the thing the kids instinctively leave open, the refrigerator door. Liquid insulation is squirted into the molded door, it expands, is shrink-wrapped and baked before it can be installed.
Basically, at this point, you've got a complete refrigerator.
Not quite. What's a fridge without all those neat little compartments?
Every one of our products is tested as a finished goods product right before it goes into the box to ensure of a high-quality product.
Unfortunately, new refrigerators don't come well stocked. On the other hand, once it's in your home, you'll find the way to the family's heart is through the fridge.